2025 meeting of the Appointments Committee. I now call this meeting to order. Please be advised that FATV is conducting an audio and video recording of this meeting for public broadcast. I ask that anybody else in the audience who is recording this meeting to please identify themselves for the record now by standing and state your name and city of residence. All right. At this time, I ask that all electronic devices be placed in the silent mode. I invite anybody in the audience who wishes to speak to please approach the podium, identify yourself by name, address, and identify the agenda item which you'd like to speak, and you may speak on it for no more than 2 minutes.
You hitting the button? Promise you it won't happen. My name's Paul Boschman. I'm a resident in Fitchburg. I'm a city councilor in the city of Fitchburg. But most of all, and most important, I'm a taxpayer and I'm a shareholder in the city of Fitchburg. So I think my voice should be heard because I'm from out there. And I come here in front of you guys, all of you, and ask you to postpone the appointments committee on these two people and let the full council speak up on it tonight at the agenda. I understand that I sat there and we could have pulled it out last week, but I was more concerned about the budget hearings than I was about the appointments. And I did talk to my dear friend over there after, and I said, I don't really like the way this is going. So I'm asking this council, Mr. Chair and you and this board, to please say this is too hot of a debate and we should send it to the full council so we all can talk about this issue. Because it's a very important issue. Very important. And those people out there want nothing but the best. So I'm asking you for your support on that, to send it to us as a flood so we can discuss the issue wide open with everybody. And so everybody has their voice made clear. Because once somebody puts down, I make a motion, we accept, and somebody says, then you can't ask questions, you have to say on the motion. And Anthony, you know I'm right, and then he'll be saying, Paul, focus. So I yield the floor.
All right.
So I get it. Thank you. Thank you very much.
Mr. Boschman, there are 3 people on for appointments. Which 2 are you talking about?
I'm talking about the building commissioner, and I'm talking about the HR person. Those are the 2 persons that I'm talking about.
Okay.
Sorry about that, for not being more clear.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Okay.
That was exactly what I wanted to specify, let us know which ones he was talking to. So thank you.
Okay.
All set.
All right. All right. We're going to take up the first appointment, the new appointment letter, Fitchburg Disability.
Mr. Chair, I believe we had someone else in the audience wishing to speak.
Oh, I'm sorry. Go ahead and approach I didn't see you back there. Sorry.
Thank you. I appreciate it. Thank you, Mr. Chairman. My name is Harold Mateo. I'm a business owner here in Fitchburg, and apologies for the hat. Definitely wanted to take an opportunity to speak regarding this appointment. I come before you as the representative of about 7 to 8 other builders who have, and my appointment, I'm here for the building commissioner appointment, and I'm speaking to you as a longtime Fitchburg resident who grew up here, a business owner, somebody that is a construction supervisor that runs projects, that interacts with this department on a very regular basis, probably more than what you guys do on a formal setting, and a user of the system. I think I would love to see this being spoken to with the city council at large, all of you together, because it really is a very important decision. The councilor himself, the building commissioner himself, love him as a person. I think he's a great individual. I have a lot of respect for him. My question at this current moment and the concerns that I have received from other builders is whether it is the right fit at this time for the city of Fitchburg. With that, some of those folks didn't want to come here because they're afraid of retaliation. They have open permits. And I'm here because I'm okay with retaliation. I've dealt with it before. And I think that we deserve an opportunity to have a building commissioner that is here full-time, 5 days a week, or at a very minimum 4 days a week, and who has a standard operating procedure of getting back to you at least within 48 hours, whether you call or text. Not 7 days later, not a response on OpenGov 20 days later. I just think that's unacceptable. I've expressed my concerns to other people. I've called most of you counselors who I was able to speak to. This has a direct implication with a lot of people from Fitchburg. This is how we put food on our table, and the delays cost Fitchburg residents money and time because they have to wait for us to get permits, and it also costs us money and delays as builders, hundreds of thousands of dollars, if not more. I yield the floor. Thank you.
Thank you.
Jeremy,
Go ahead, approach.
Consulting Services.
What is
I
your
am a
name?
builder in this area.
Could you please repeat your name, sir?
Jeremy Ethier Sr.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah. I have several open permits currently in this town. I've spent the better half of the last year and a half fighting my way through the building system since we elected our mayor. I've been trying to get a hold of her for the better half of 6 or 7 months to no avail. I do get responses back from Felix, but he's in 1 day a week. The other building inspectors, I've been assaulted, verbally assaulted by them in front of witnesses, people that pay taxes and people that were lurking in this town that hired us. These actually have statements, affidavits, and everything. So the town should take the time to make it in there. I'm here tonight, 3 days out of the hospital from a second heart attack this year, to make sure that they take the time to figure this out correctly. They should postpone this, they should do it, and people should respond to people so that we can have a say in what's happening, because this is our livelihood and it is our city. That's about it.
All right, thank you very much.
Thanks.
Ms. Cragen.
Hello, my name is Sally Cragen. I am a city councilor at large in Fitchburg, and I live at 1138 Oak Hill Road. I am here on behalf of the appointment of our new building commissioner, and I am in favor of that appointment. Hello.
Is she speaking as a resident or a counselor?
I believe she's speaking as a resident.
I'm speaking as a resident. I just identified myself for the public, in case they said, oh, I know who that is, and weren't sure. So I've had some issues that residents have spoken to me about. There's a building project in Ward 3 that there were some questions from residents. I called Felix and I said, can we set up an appointment? This is the issue. We set up an appointment within 3 days. I sat down. It was really complicated. This is not my field. And I was able to get back to residents so that they were able to say, oh, okay, I understand that now. My understanding is that when the acting building commissioner came here, there were more than 300 building permits that had not been attended to. And I have been active in this city for a long time. I was elected to school committee in 2008, and I remember hearing from then Mayor Lisa Wong how backed up building permits were and how many problems there were and how understaffed and everything else. And people did have personal issues with the building commissioner. I think it's a really, really tricky job to do well, because people want to build, but there are these codes. And the fact that we have someone coming forward who writes codes for the state, whose understanding of what he does is so comprehensive, I've never met someone with this depth of understanding, to be honest, and I am not easily impressed. So I would, again, I would urge my colleagues here on appointments to take the long view and get the right person in the job, and let's move things along. Because we have had people in the building department that did make things delayed, but the fact that we have cleared, hundreds of permits in a very short order, the fact that I am able to reach out, I actually called the building commissioner, boy, it was Thursday, it was after 8 o'clock, and I felt badly doing it, but I had someone who was just really very emotional. And so that's what I did. And he answered the call, and he gave me good advice, and there it is. Very responsive to emails. It's my experience. Yes, I'm a counselor, but anyway, reach out to me. Mr. Mateo, I didn't hear from you, so you can certainly reach out to me. I'm happy to talk.
Yep.
I'm done.
Thank you, Ms. Cragen.
There's no doubt that Felix knows the code very well. He's very intelligent. He's been very effective. But you either need to make him commissioner or have him step down, because the whole building department, including from the mayor down, is not functioning. He's the only part that functions. He will return the call. He is very intelligent. He can get the job done. But he needs to be a part of the town. As he wrote the code, he's well aware 30 days as an acting commissioner. There's the town laws, the town things. They're all here. 30 days,
Thank you, sir.
not 2 years.
Thank you, sir. Anybody else? Okay, we'll move on now. We have a new appointment letter to the Fitchburg Disability Commission for a term to expire May 1st, 2028. Emily Stark. Or Starks, excuse me.
Good evening. Emily Stark. I'm a resident of the city of Fitchburg. I also currently serve as the Director of Disability Services at our local university just down the road. I've had the pleasure of advocating for inclusiveness and accessibility across a wide variety of settings for folks with disabilities for over 10 years now. And I had the pleasure of actually working with our Disability Commission back in March, where we did a wonderful walkthrough of our campus to assess the accessibility and discuss some different changes, both larger and smaller projects that could be done to ensure the safety and success of folks who are navigating our campus, which then led to me having an opportunity to attend one of their recent meetings back in April. And that's where they shared that they were looking for additional folks to join them. And I thought that that would be a wonderful opportunity for me to both grow, but also bridge the gap between, town to gown, if you will, between the university and our city council. So that's why I'm here. I'm hopeful that you would consider my appointment.
Councilor Green.
Yes, Emily, I just want to say that I commend the effort. I was behind the scenes for the FSU Disability Walk because there had been not only students and faculty that reached out and said, hey, we've got a problem here. We can't navigate some areas of the university well. So I want to applaud the work that the university has done to correct that. Yeah. And then also say a big thank you to wanting to step forward and serve on a commission like that. It's important that we hear views and opinions from everybody involved. And, disability doesn't necessarily mean anything in the negative. It's just a different ability. So the fact that we are, again, like you say, bridging that gap, I applaud you for that. So
thank you.
I welcome you to be part of that board and commission.
Thank you so much.
A motion to approve.
Second. Okay, we have a motion and second. All those in favor? Now, because Councilor Cruz is remote, we're going to have to take a roll call vote. Councilor Cruz?
Yes.
Councilor Green?
Yes.
Councilor Zarella?
Yes.
Yes.
Councilor Fleming? And I am also a yes. Congratulations, you stand approved.
Thank you so much. Appreciate it.
All right, next we have a new appointment letter for the Human Resource Director of the City of Fitchburg, Brittney Fish.
Good evening, councilors, and thank you for this opportunity. So I do have a few things that I want to say in terms of my qualifications and experience that I hope you'll take into consideration moving forward with my appointment. For the majority of my career, I've been privileged to be a part of an organization for a long time that placed high value on training and development and had the pleasure of working with many people that I would consider to be mentors, and the reason why I even have this opportunity today. Previous positions, I've been deeply involved in key HR functions such as employee development, hiring, onboarding, performance improvement, and compliance training, and have been able to garner many transferable skills into this role. Those roles required an understanding of workforce needs, collaborating with leadership on a local and national level, and developing strategies, policies, and trainings to increase employee engagement and retention, which are all core responsibilities within the human resources role. I've also managed sensitive personnel issues and ensured that training aligned with organizational policy and employment law. In many ways, a training manager functions as the bridge between leadership and staff, just like HR. I understand how to build a healthy workplace culture and what that entails. I've been able to implement policy effectively and support employees' professional growth, as well as the importance of taking a step back and meeting our employees where they are. These skills directly align with the mission of the city's HR department, and I'm confident that I can bring the same level of commitment and insight to serve this community that I also live in. I've been with the city for 3 years now in an HR capacity, beginning as the HR assistant, and then moving into the generalist role and now the interim role. I was fortunate enough that my predecessor, as well as my current leadership team, saw what I could bring to the table and gave me these opportunities and this current opportunity that I have with the city. So if you have any questions regarding my qualifications, skills, and abilities, happy to answer them.
Councilor Zarella.
Thank you. So I was looking through our ordinance, which details qualifications for the HR director position. This is for anyone, sorry, I'm trying to pull this up. For anyone wanting to check it, it's section 3-265 of our city code. And I did, as we discussed earlier, I did have some initial concerns because it specifies that there have to be 7 to 10 years experience in personnel administration. And, you know, the candidate's resume shows only approximately 3 years in a direct HR capacity. You touched on a bit of how your prior experience prepared you for this role. I'm sorry, I should back up a step. I want to note 3-265B, however, does give the City Council the authority to waive any of these requirements if we deem by a majority vote that the recommended candidate has acquired equivalent qualifications through relevant experience. So Brittney and I had a conversation this afternoon about exactly that, about how her prior experience before joining the Fitchburg HR team involved quite a lot of HR work. You touched on a lot of that. I also asked, and you answered to my satisfaction, you've had experience in creating and implementing policy matters as well, correct?
Yes, sir. Yeah, I think I appreciate the question because, you know, we look at resumes when we're reviewing resumes, and it doesn't always tell the full story, and that's why we bring candidates into interview. And I would expect this to be no different in being able to talk about, you know, what I can offer and bring to the table.
Mm-hmm. And I appreciate that. And if you could elaborate briefly on, you talked about some of how the nature of the business that you were in led to you getting more opportunities than might be typical to dip your toe into these particular areas.
Sure. So the majority of my skills come from being a supervisor and then a training manager. Mostly in the training manager role, you have to partner with your HR team pretty closely. You're involved in interviewing, hiring decisions, onboarding processes, and the bigger part of your role is supporting that employee as they transition into their new role. That entails, you know, personnel matters that can come up. That entails, you know, any sort of policy and training that they need to be exposed to before they transition into their role. You know, just making sure that they're educated on, you know, what policies and procedures that they need to follow in their role. Definitely, you know, initiated a lot of trainings with our employees with regards to just, you know, legal requirements like wage and hour, record keeping, making sure they know how to enter and track their time and what the laws are surrounding that. You know, some folks that we worked with, they, you know, coming in off the street, they hadn't really had that experience, and you gotta kind of build that with them from the ground up. Working in the large company that I worked in, I had the opportunity to work with many people across, you know, many different locations in the organization and collaborate. Conference calls every day to talk about policy and process and why it's not working. I think, you know, a lot of what I've done in the past can relate to the city of Fitchburg. I don't think the perfect candidate exists at all. And, you know, I can understand why you have these questions because the city is facing a lot of issues just from a fiscal standpoint. But I strongly believe in teamwork And I've been, I've built off that foundation just in my career. One person can't change something. So I think collaboration and having the skills to be able to pull people together and collaborate. I have a lot of experience with just project management and reaching out to the right people at the right time. Who has this answer? We don't know who has this answer. Well, let's find out who does have this answer. Being very resource-minded, seeking out your own opportunities to educate yourself. And just, supporting the business in the way that it needs to be supported where it's at the current time. And being able to pivot when you need to pivot and make a change where a change needs to be made.
Thank you.
Hopefully that answers your question, Council.
I think it does. Thank you.
Thank you.
Councilor Cruz.
Hello.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I apologize. I was not anticipating the Starbucks to close early, so I'm outside, some traffic, so if the audio is not good, I apologize. Ms.
What
Fish, thank you for
Starbucks
coming.
closes early?
I know. 7 o'clock, I know. So I apologize. But Ms. Fish, I do have some questions regarding kind of the process that went into your appointment. Mm-hmm. How long was the job description posted online?
So for this particular point in time for this position, the job description was not posted. I do want to make it clear that this position was not handed to me in any way, shape, or form. I was approached to kind of, take over when my predecessor left the city, and I was asked if I would want that opportunity. It wasn't forced upon me in any way. And, being focused on keeping the ship afloat and also valuing my position with the city, I definitely took that, I took that on. And at that point in time, I honestly was not even sure that I wanted to, seriously consider transitioning into the position. And our mayor did not give me any inclination that she was looking to hire me at that time. We had a very frank conversation. There were conversations about, facilitating the process of getting someone into the role, and recruiting and posting the job. But as time went on, I just, continued to work in the role. And, luckily, the mayor, she was, she came to me with the feedback, regarding the job that I was doing. And we had a conversation about my willingness to do the role. And at that time, about a month or so later, I'd indicated that, yes, I would be interested in the position. But again, at that time, it really wasn't handed to me. And I've essentially been interviewing for this job for 5 months under the mayor and working with the department heads and the teams across the city, which is what led to the decision that's being made today, hopefully.
Thank you, Ms. Fish. And just to be clear, my question is, it doesn't stem that I have any concerns about you or your abilities, but my concern is with the process. I do not understand how, when we are in this process of hiring, how the job could not have been posted, how no interviews could have been held, and no other candidates were welcomed. So again, it's nothing towards you, Ms. Fish. I've enjoyed working with you so far in this capacity, but I cannot approve the appointment considering so little went into the application process. I think it's a pretty glaring oversight by the administration. And when everyone is done, I'm going to make a motion to hold this until we can have a proper application process. Thank you, Mr. Chair. I yield the floor.
Can I make one more comment with regards to that, if that's appropriate?
Go ahead.
There's a process that many organizations use called succession planning. And what that does is that garners institutional knowledge, and that preserves that. Working in the city of Fitchburg, we don't really have a lot of resources to invest in a robust training platform. So we really rely on the people who know how to do the job. And that comes with experience and working alongside your leader. And that's kind of, where I'm at here in this role, along with the other experience that I have. Succession planning is something that's not new to the city of Fitchburg. It is something that has taken place across, a few departments, just in my experience here in the past few years. I understand and hear you completely what you're saying, and I acknowledge the fact that, yes, we We probably should have taken a different path there, but it's not an uncommon practice to move someone who has the skills into the role without posting the job. The hiring process can be expensive, especially if you're looking to hire a recruiter to go out and look for someone to do the position. And that would be my comment. Thank you.
Councilor Green.
Yes, Brittney, again, this has nothing to do with personal. You know, it has to do with personnel. And so if this, I'm confused on if you were so good of understanding processes and policies and procedures, why wouldn't you have taken the opportunity to say, as you were having these conversations with the mayor, you know what, I think it would be best if we posted this position and see what we gather as far as applicants. Only because we don't know what's out there. There could be somebody from a sister community who has an HR director that has 12 years of experience that's looking to transition into this community and work for us. My other concern is, you know, I understand that your position has already been filled as a generalist. So what are you going to do if you are not appointed to the HR director and the position that was yours is now filled by somebody else? We've already offered and the job has been accepted for your position. What then?
I hear you 100% and totally, you know, understand where you're coming from with that. I think one of the contributing factors was just the busyness of the role and maybe being a little bit too immersed in it to really take a step back and focus on the policies and the mechanisms that are in place to recruit folks that are qualified. The decision to move the generalist into the role that she's in now was just from, you know, a technical support standpoint and making sure that, you know, we could do the job that needed to be done with the two people that are there in the office. And if for some reason I'm not appointed, then, you know, I'm not appointed, and I'll have to deal with that situation as it comes.
I mean, that's not right on so many levels. I can't even begin to tell you how that's not right on so many levels. That the whole policy, process, and procedure was not followed how it's directed as how we do good business. So I want you to, I don't want you to feel the sting of that, but I want you to hear that. You know what I mean? That
I hear you.
You know, I feel bad. I honest to God feel bad that here we are faced again with decisions that have been made with no input from anybody else that has the governance to do that, and that we essentially have potentially ousted you of a job. And there's no reason why we had to rush on this process when you were 100% capable of filling that role as you'd been for the last 5 months, and take our time with this. I mean, I don't understand. So again, because once again, it was not followed, and I'm not willing to sit for probably the 3rd or 4th time as a counselor and be criticized for why did we do it when the process wasn't followed. So I won't be supporting the appointment, even though it pains me immensely to have to say that, because I don't know what you're going to do potentially without a job, since it's already been filled.
Well, you know, when it comes to me being appointed, I truly feel that the mayor would need to speak to why that process wasn't followed and why she felt comfortable enough to move me into the role and bypassing the process. I can't offer you that perspective, unfortunately, but I hear what you're saying 100%.
Great. I yield the floor. Thank you.
Councilor Fleming?
Yes, thank you. I need to piggyback on what Councilor Green and Councilor Cruz both said. This is definitely not personal. In fact, the result of this lies squarely on the mayor for doing the process this way. I had to look into seeing what qualifications were for an HR director. And I think I need to read them to everybody. They require a degree in HR, a bachelor's in business administration or a related field is typically required. Also, a master's degree is preferred. Additionally, years of progression, HR leadership experience, 7+ years, is a common requirement. So I asked the mayor this question during the budget hearings. Do you write the job description for the candidate to come in, or do you tailor the job description to the person coming in? And I believe that is what she does to get the people she wants in there. So I am also not going to support this appointment because I believe this whole thing was done wrong. And I think there's nobody to blame but the mayor.
So there was no job description drafted at all. We do have a job description for the HR director that was, implemented a few years back. In terms of my qualifications, I know I don't have a bachelor's in HR. I do hold a PHR, which is a professional in human resources, which you have to have a certain amount of qualifications to even be able to test for that certification, and that has to go through an approval process. So I wouldn't have even been able to test for that hadn't I had that initial background that was required. And I do plan to continue that education when that certification expires in 2027.
Okay, and I just want to piggyback on that an HR director does actually say it also needs a master's degree. So it's sometimes you do just grow with the job and you can go into it.
Mm-hmm.
I personally don't think you've been at the job long enough that you fall into that category.
Mm-hmm.
And again, it's not personal, it's the process.
Yep.
And my apologies for that. Thank you.
Councilor Zarella.
Given that the sentiment I'm hearing from my colleagues on the committee seems to be a process objection rather than an objection to the candidate, might I suggest that we go with the suggestion that Councilor Cruz alluded to, and rather than voting this down, if we want to see more process, if we want to see a broader search implemented, then perhaps we hold this, and then if the search comes back either with no candidates or low quality candidates, we still have an excellent candidate in front of us. If the search comes back and we find an absolute rock star who has every qualification we could ask for, then great. But I think given that we currently have only one candidate and no backups, and given that she's doing a fully competent job in her current position, it would seem to me to be short-sighted to outright reject the appointment and then leave us with no fallback option.
So is that a motion, or is that a second to Councilor Cruz's motion?
Make a motion to hold the appointment.
I'll second that.
Okay. All right. Roll call vote. Councilor Cruz.
Yes.
Councilor Green.
Yes.
Councilor Zarella.
Yes.
Councilor Fleming.
Yes.
I'm also a yes, and it's nothing personal, Ms. Fish.
Thank you, everyone.
All right, next we have the new appointment letter for the building commissioner of the city of Fitchburg, Felix I. Zemel.
Good evening, councilors. Thank you very much for this opportunity. I know many here have been waiting for it for a while, myself included. As a little change from the comments that were made for the last candidate, I'm here through a different path. I originally started here as a consultant under the former mayor, when former Commissioner Barbadoro resigned to take a job as state building commissioner, and my company was brought in to keep the ship floating. After the election, Mayor Squalia posted the position, created the job description, posted the position, kept the position open for the better part of 4 months. I originally thought it was 3, but it actually was posted, I believe, in December. So the better part of 4 months for the position being posted, and had, from what I understand, minimal applicants, and the pool just was not sufficient for her to move forward with a recommendation. And so she asked me, given the job description, whether I'd be willing to apply for the position, because I hadn't put in for the job initially. I was planning on going back to my consulting, which I continued to do off hours. And I said, yes, I can, with the exception of the physical hours in the office, which I know is a very touchy subject for a number of counselors and many of you I've spoken with. I had committed to the mayor, and continue that commitment to you, to put in at least 40 hours a week to the city. But much of that is off hours or remote. I would say less than half of it, though, because when I originally started, I was here 1 to 2 days a week. And now I'm here 3 days a week physically, and sometimes even more than that. So ever since my custody plan changed, when my personal situation was finalized in December, I committed to the mayor to try to add in an additional day, and that's when I added in a third day. So I'm physically in the office typically Mondays, Tuesdays, and Fridays. It is all completely revolving around my kids, my parenting plan with the kids, my parenting time with the kids, which is why I have this remote schedule, because my children are my priority. And second priority is the city of Fitchburg. When I did the math, because I live an hour away, the days when I do have my kids, I have to get them starting at 2:30 in the afternoon. So that means I'd have to leave here at 1:30 if I came in those days, because it takes me at least an hour to get to my kids' school. And then coming in, it would waste an hour. That's 2 hours of commute time that is better serving the city of Fitchburg, being able to answer phone calls and do OpenGov reviews and do other reviews for the residents of the city. In addition to that, when I am in the office, I found, as I've increased my hours in the office, that I actually have less time to get the nuts and bolts of the job done the more I'm in the office, because I'm being pulled into more and more meetings of different subcommittees or advisory committees, and it's actually less time available to my staff, less time available to residents, and less time available to business owners and developers, where I'm able to now do much of my job remotely because of the OpenGov system. In addition to that, there was a period of time when I had a big backlog of voicemails, because what I found is about 2/3 or so of the voicemails that I get actually should be going to other members of the staff. And so I delegated that role to the admin team to review my voicemails and for me to just get the ones I was getting. But I found that that wasn't efficient. And so as of about 3 weeks ago, the mayor asked the IT team to get me a city cell phone. And what I did was I have my phone calls from my desk now forwarded to the city cell phone. So people are getting me right away at various hours of the day. In addition to that, I've added that city cell phone to my signature line on my emails, so that when I send an email, people know where to reach me and how to reach me. That way my backlog on voicemails has gone to nil at this point. When I checked when I left the office today, I think there was one voicemail. As I've heard from some counselors about time for reviews, by statute, we have 30 days to review or to get back to somebody. And the reason for that 30-day cushion is because the building department is a very active department, and the workload fluctuates every day depending on what's happening. Just as a little idea of what the workflow looks like. On an average day, I receive 50 notifications on OpenGov. Those notifications could be new form of intent for a new business or new development or new zoning determination that's needed. Those could be a new building permit application. Those could be someone responding to a comment to me, or it could be someone from our team asking me a question or commenting on a permit, or it could be somebody uploaded a new set of plans or uploaded some sort of document. It averages to about 50 per day that I get. Our department, and me in particular, get about 7 forms of intent per week, which is up from 5 forms of intent per week in 2023. And we get an average of 34 building permit applications per week for new projects of various sorts. Since I started, as Councillor Cragen mentioned, the previous building commissioner would send all of the reviews out to the inspectors, and he would primarily handle the larger projects or zoning related issues and handed everything else to the inspectors. That resulted in a large backlog of reviews, especially with one particular inspector who wasn't too handy with the computer. So when I came in, I quickly shifted that. I streamlined the process so that now, for example, every single permit that we get for a building permit has some sort of closeout document, either a letter of completion or a certificate of occupancy, where previously there was either no closeout document or you had to apply for a separate certificate of occupancy if you needed the certificate of occupancy. Now it's all streamlined into one. The form of intent process has also been streamlined significantly so that people can get input from all the different departments in one application so that they know what kinds of things they need to get if they're moving forward with a project. Our volume, as I mentioned, has gone up on a per week basis from 2 years ago when I first started as the interim building commissioner. I've integrated multiple record types into the closeout documents, as I've said. I've established bi-weekly staff meetings with our team, even though the team can reach me at any hours. And even Mr. Mateo, who spoke earlier today, he's contacted me on weekends. He has my personal cell phone number, in addition to, I believe, the city cell phone number. And he's contacted me nights, weekends. We've spoken. Multiple developers have the same. So it's not just the councilors at all. I have other developers who routinely will call me with questions or concerns or text message me at various times with various issues. This is all working with less staff than we had in 2023 when one building inspector was cut when the inspector left to take another role. And so we're doing more with less currently. And I have to think partially because of the efficiencies that we've put in the last couple of years. And partially it's because of the fact that I have been able to be remote and focus on a lot of these process efficiencies in order to help not just our department, but help across the city. I've helped multiple departments with OpenGov integration and updates to the OpenGov system through their various permits and forms as well, which is in addition to my general role as building commissioner.
Councilor Green.
Yes, and this is not new information to you. We've talked about this. The accommodation that you were given because of your children's situation, I commend you for to be one of those fathers that actively wants to participate in their children's lives. And again, this is not personal. This has to do with proper policy and procedure, that if we're making accommodations for you, then we would need to make accommodations for every city employee who has a child care issue, first and foremost. Are you still, or do you currently still hold the position of building inspector for the town of Dover?
I am the backup building inspector for the town of Dover. In the last year, that has taken up maybe 5 hours of my time. So I'm there on call for if they have a bigger project that they need me to review something either off hours, or if either the building commissioner or his other full-time building inspector are unavailable, then they'll call me. But there's 2 steps of staffing before they even call me at this point. So I've done maybe 5 hours in the last year for the town of Dover.
Total or 5 hours a week?
Total.
Okay, what about the other work for your personal private consulting firm?
I fit that work in when I can, where I can. As I've mentioned before to many of the councilors, that is my primary source of income, is the consulting. The work that I do here in Fitchburg is really because I believe in Fitchburg and I believe in the mission that the mayor has and that the council has in moving Fitchburg forward and improving conditions for the residents of Fitchburg. But my consulting practice is my primary income. And so I do that, but I also do commit to at least 40 hours a week of work for the city of Fitchburg.
Right, and I mean, again, I want to commend that, because the people that I've talked to regarding your consulting company, I mean, you are really good at what you do, and I appreciate your broad scope of the expertise that you bring to us as a community. I'm concerned that, are we really open for business and moving forward with, with a full-time position but part-time presence? I'm concerned about that, and I know that you say that that your staff is, you're available to them and you're able to better manage, or the department is working better when you're not there. But I worry about how you, on a daily basis, manage and supervise the building staff when you're not present to see what is happening. I mean, not everything takes place online. There's a lot of stuff that happens, when people are standing at the window losing their crap over, that they can't reach anybody, or why are you giving them a hard time, or how come it's not easy, where are the answers? So if you could just touch upon that,
Very
I'd
true.
appreciate that.
Thank you very much, Councilor Green. Very true concerns with that. And that has been a management style that I have built over the years, because previously as chief building official for the Commonwealth, I had to supervise inspectors all across Massachusetts, and who are disparate, who are all remote, who didn't have a central location in 4 different field offices across the state. And I had to develop the ability to supervise, know what's happening remotely. That takes both trust and communication, and also the ability to have a team behind you that you know how to serve as both a leader and a manager. So I have the ability to see how many inspections people do a day, what they do during the day. I have the ability to check up on their voicemails, all of this remotely. The inspection staff, I can tell you that whenever there's an issue at the counter or with a staff member, I hear about it almost instantaneously, either through another staff member, through the mayor, or through the resident directly. They'll send me a message either through email or through the OpenGov system. So I hear about it pretty quickly. And from what I've been told by one of the inspectors in our office, he's gone through a number of building commissioners in his career, and he said I'm the first one that he can actually think of as a manager, because I know what's happening with the department. I've built the level of a team, because I approach this, as you hear me not talking about my staff or my department. It's because we're all one department, we're all a team. I know that there's a formal management structure, and at the end of the day, the buck with that stops with me. But I treat us as one team and really try to get that integration so that we can work together and identify any issues and work through those issues together in order to build that efficiency and build that level of work that has led to our having increases in permit volume, and also decreases in the number of ZBA applications that have had to come in as a result of forms of intent, because I'm working closely with our leadership team, our planning team, which previously there wasn't always the best communication with the planning team and with our legal team to really reinterpret and better understand what the zoning ordinance says so that we can be open for business.
And then under the I'm going to say old job description, the job posting for this position, under qualifications, skills, and abilities, I can't help but notice that it says must withdraw from all company partnerships engaged in the construction area industry. So there's a condition of your employment, but yet you're in that industry. And the other is must be available 7 days for after-hour emergencies. And would you be able to do that? I mean, if it
Yes,
came down to it?
Yes, and I have. I've come out here in the middle of the night at 1 a.m. for emergencies before. I just got called out yesterday by the fire department for a house that crashed into a building because it was after hours for the inspectors. I was still in the area. I went out there so that we didn't have to pay 4 hours of overtime potentially to an inspector for that. I routinely, when I call an inspector in the middle of the night, because one of the changes I made in order to get our overtime rolled in over the last year was instead of the fire department and police department calling the inspectors directly for call-outs, they call me and I triage whether an inspector should go out or not. And so before we go 4 hours of overtime for a staff member, I get to know that, and I always ask the inspector, would you rather I come out or would you rather go out there? Because I'm always available to come out at any hour as long as I'm within the state of Massachusetts. I come out for that. I didn't know about that position, that clause in the job description. I don't recall seeing it, but I believe the way that was meant is in the actual practice of construction because of potential conflicts of interest. And what I do is I consult for municipalities and for developers. I don't do the actual construction. I don't do the actual design. I review projects on behalf of municipalities, and the team that I work with for my consulting practice reviews projects on behalf of other municipalities that are too large. And I have a small practice that I do expert witness work, and that I will help out some projects navigate through the permitting process, but I don't do any of the actual construction or design aspects of it. I help the license holders who are the ones who are actually doing that work.
If this appointment came down to, if we had to put conditions on this appointment that said you absolutely have to be in the office 5 days a week, would you be able to do that?
No, I would not.
Thank you. I yield the floor.
Councilor Cruz.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Yeah, I think Mr. Zemel, just a second, please apologize. Got it on phone as well. Mr. Zemel, there's no doubt you are very, very good at what you do. You know the stuff inside and out. You write some of the code that we're using. There's no doubt that you are an expert in this field. My concern is, again, with some of the policy, and this time there isn't one. The Fitchburg, we don't have a work from home or a hybrid policy, and I'm not against that. Obviously, I'm remote right now, I'm virtual. My concern is it's not fair to the other employees because we don't have a policy, and so we're making exceptions, and we're kind of, as we go, we're sort of figuring it out. But personally, I think the city needs a policy in place before we can move forward, because it's not fair to single anyone out. And I completely understand your situation, and I also, like Councilor Green, applaud your efforts. But without a policy in place that we can turn to, it's just not fair to the other employees. Thank you, Mr. Chair. You have the floor.
Councilor Zarella.
Thank you. I think what we're coming up against here is sometimes I feel that on rare occasion, when you have a particular level of expertise, when you have a particular level of competence that you really can't find anywhere else, sometimes you do tailor the job to the candidate. You know, we wouldn't want to do it all the time, but I have asked around, I've looked around, I can't find anywhere else that has a building commissioner with the sheer level of knowledge and expertise that we have here. And I'm not certain what we would get if we went to if we went out to a search again, especially since we didn't really get a lot of options last time. Is it important to have someone in the office? Opinions may vary, but I would say it could be certainly a plus. But is it enough of a plus that it would be better to have a less qualified, less competent person 5 days a week as opposed to a superbly qualified person 3 days a week and remote? I think the proof is in the pudding. You know, the work is getting done, and particularly I spoke to 3 different contractors over the course of this weekend and heard the concerns about response times and so forth. And I spoke to Commissioner Zemel about this and received responses that satisfy me that this is a problem that will be solved in the near-term future. Not way down the road, not eventually, but this is something where I would certainly hope that if I speak to those same contractors a month down the road, they'll be telling me, yeah, problem solved. It's better now. So if the permits are getting issued, if the backlog is getting eliminated, if there is going to be prompt, efficient turnaround on not just the actual deadlines, but also communications and so forth, and if there is actual supervision over the staff, you know, and I've seen companies that run with management not at the same location as staff, and under the right circumstances, it can work. If that's the case, I'm not sure that making our decision on the basis of those 2 extra days in the office is the right call. I look at what would be giving up, and, you know, I think about how much it would be costing us if we were getting the services we're getting from Commissioner Zemel's consulting firm as opposed to at the city salary. And I see it as a value proposition. If we had a bunch of highly qualified candidates knocking down our doors to say, you know, put me in and I'll work, you know, whatever hours you ask me to, maybe it would be a different story, but we're not. And we need someone who knows their stuff. We need someone who is not going to be, because I've seen building commissioners in other municipalities who are flying by the seat of their pants. They are, you know, they're friendly, they're personable, they're, you know, business friendly, but they're flying by the seat of their pants. And I've seen situations where those municipalities get into trouble because of that. Sometimes big trouble, sometimes, you know, your name on a case trouble. And I feel like there's a value in expertise that you just can't replace just with time. So if, you know, several months down the road, I were hearing the same concerns, the same complaints, no improvement, no changes, then I'd be rather upset. And, you know, Felix knows this. This isn't any mystery or anything, but I'm inclined to take him at his word when he says he's made improvements to address these concerns, and give him the chance to continue moving us in the right direction. I yield the floor.
Thank you. Councilor Fleming.
So, yeah, so I have the same concerns as Councilor Cruz and Councilor Green. However, I come from a different perspective here. This is a case where the job was tailored to the individual. And I don't 100% believe that there were no other people coming in for this position. I believe we're just told that. We have no proof that that is the case. However, since Felix has been here, I have been really impressed with his response time to me and to issues in my ward. So I can only vote from what I see, and although I would love for him to be in the office 5 days a week, he just has such vast knowledge in this area that I will vote to approve this appointment.
Councilor Zarella.
I think Councilor Fleming made a very good point that I just wanted to piggyback on very briefly, 10 seconds, which is if contractors and developers start to see the same responsiveness from Commissioner Zemel that I have always experienced, then I think we'll have no problems, because I've never had a problem. You know, I can pick up the phone anytime, and I want that to be the case for all people doing business in the city of Fitchburg as well. But I think that can be the case. I think that can be true going forward. And if it's not, I'm sure people will reach out to me and let me know. And then we have our options from there.
Your city, once again, is forgetting all the laws, the procedures, and everything to go forward to cater to what the needs of the current mayor are now. So we'll forgive everything. We're following procedures that you're asking him to enforce, that you're not enforcing it in the city because it fits your needs. Just remember that.
Councilor Green.
Just as a point of clarification and a question, what and how is our means as the appointment committee or as the council as a whole to, I guess my question is, how do we ensure that the concerns that have been brought up over and over and over again are being addressed? Is it, do we hold this until, I don't know, another 4 months down the road and have the same people who had concerns today come back and say, oh yeah, it's much better, or it's not any better, or, you know, the employees over at City Hall saying, yep, nothing's changed. Because again, I don't want to leave the city of Fitchburg without a building commissioner. That's not what our goal and responsibility is, but I want to make sure that the points that have been brought up are going to be addressed or are addressed to say, okay, we've made the right decision. You know what I mean? Like he's the guy, he's the fit. You know what I mean? I just want to be assured of that, because once we either say yes to the appointment, considering there's, you know, no date, so I guess it just goes on inevitably until he decides, you know, to retire or something else. What is our means of the checks and balances for what we've heard as concerns today? How do we go about addressing those?
I mean, one piece I can say is I believe the appointment letter from the mayor, the communication, did have an end date on it. So there is that end date. But I'm also open to routine check-ins. The mayor and I check in pretty much daily, including on weekends, and she gives me regular feedback. I'm happy to do that with the counselors as well, so that I can hear your various constituencies' concerns, and I can make any necessary adjustments on a more routine basis as well. So I'm happy to listen to the options. I'm happy to have, say, a monthly check-in with the council president, or do quarterly check-ins with each councilor, so that I can hear your concerns. Multiple of the councilors already have my personal number, and they stop by the office, or they call me or text me at various hours. So you can always reach me, but I'm happy to make a more formal check-in process as well.
Thank you for that. I just didn't know where we are as the governing subcommittee of this.
Well, considering that this is a new appointments letter, what is the date of the expiration?
I believe the letter said, I think it was for a 3-year appointment. So I believe it was June 1st, 2028 is what the new appointment letter stated.
Because we don't have anything here as far as, it just says new appointment letter, HR director, name, no date, new appointment letter, building commissioner.
I believe it was in the council's packet for the meeting 2 weeks ago.
I don't remember seeing
It was.
When it was when it was
when
it was referred to the appointments committee.
Well, I guess I will chime in here. Like my counselors, you have a stellar resume. I mean, your CV is very impressive. Like some of my other counselors, I am concerned about your presence in the office itself. But you've been very responsive for the issues that I present to you. I did get contacted by a resident who's very concerned in regards to a development up on Bel Air and Chabot, and I understand the law has changed, but this building is going to be 17 feet from her kitchen window, and she was told that it was going to be in the center of the plot. Have you sent anybody up to that development to make sure that it's what they actually said that it was?
So, first of all, I didn't tell her it's going to be in the center of the lot. I said that it's going to meet all of the setbacks from the zoning ordinance, and I believe the zoning ordinance requires a 15-foot setback from that property line. Because this is a corner lot, I believe her property is considered the side yard under our zoning ordinance, which is 15 foot. Before they're able to start framing, they have to get us a certified as-built plan for where the foundation is. That has to be certified by a professional land surveyor that says exactly what those setbacks are. We've had probably one in my tenure that they've gone closer than the setbacks, and I've stopped the project and forced them to go to the Zoning Board of Appeals for a variance in that situation.
Now, is there any, according to this resident, there's a big water issue on this corner lot, and it gets flooded out, and removing trees is only going to make matters worse. Was there any water table done or anything like that to indicate what kind of water issues there were?
No, and unfortunately, this lot and this project falls below the city's stormwater permitting process thresholds. So there's no stormwater analysis that's required, but those are also under the engineering department. And before I issue any permit, it has to go through that department's review as well. And they have to sign off on it, which they did, to say that unfortunately there is nothing that we can do. The legislature at the state level made the law and changed the merger rules on this one. And I believe it was you, Councilor Zarella, and Councilor Boschman this one person spoke to. I believe she also spoke with our city clerk, who worked very hard to help her and was in communication with me. And I'd spoken with her a few weeks before that. And I believe the neighbors had also spoken with Councilor Cragen as well previously, because that was one of our earlier interactions, was discussing it from the other neighbor on that property.
Yeah, I've gotten a bunch of calls for that area, and I researched the law, and there's really nothing that can be done in regards to the development of this property. But setting the residents' minds at ease in regards to the change of the law and whatnot, I think something a little bit more needs to be done for the residents. I know there's nothing that you can do, but having a little better bedside manner might be a little better in regards to that, because this one resident was very, very upset because according to what she was saying, you basically just dismissed her saying, it's the law, it's the law, it's the law, there's nothing I can do, which might be the case, but so call for a vote.
And just as
Motion to hold. Make a motion to hold. Hold the appointment.
All right, we have a motion to hold. Do we have a second?
Second.
Okay, we have a motion to hold and a second. We'll take a roll call vote.
On the motion?
Oh,
I just wanted to give the appointment end date, that's June 1st, 2028.
thank you very much, Councilor Fleming. Okay, roll call vote. Councilor Cruz.
Yes.
Councilor Green.
Yes.
Councilor Zarella.
No.
Councilor Fleming.
I will hold. Yeah.
And I will vote yes, but unfortunately it's been held. So unfortunately you have not been reappointed as of right now, but I'm sure that the administration is going to address the issues. Thank you.
thank you.
Motion to
Motion to adjourn.
Okay, motion and a second. All's in, Councilor Cruz?
Yes.
Councilor Green?
Yes.
Councilor Zarella?
Yes.
I'm a yes. Councilor Fleming?
Yes.
Okay, we stand adjourned.